Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to another episode of Did You Know Business. Last week we had a conversation on how to sustain a business by collaboration. Today we'll be talking about how to sustain a business through innovation. Joining me for this conversation is none other than Abdulkadir from Bilad Realty. But before we kickstart this conversation, stay tuned and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Habibi.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
You look so tired. Are you okay, Sheikh Habibi?
My apologies. Nothing much. I'm okay.
Are you tense, Sheikh? You're very good. You want me to cancel the interview? Mashallah, tabarakallah. Talking about sustainability, I've been having conversation with so many people about how to sustain their business and likes of it. And coming to talk about innovation, how to sustain businesses. What comes to your mind when we say, sustaining a business through innovation?
That's a very interesting question. But you see, if you go back to the fundamental definition of innovation itself,
right,
it's basically improving what has already been established, either through a service, a product, or whatever you may think of, basically. And that's what innovation is all about. So it's not the creation of something new, but it's in improving what is already established.
Right.
Now, if sustainability rather is understood as continuation of human life on Earth, then really we don't have an alternative. The most prevalent notion is that sustainability is expensive. It's very costly. But at the end of the day, we know that we don't really have that much of a choice,
right,
but to go for it. Because at the end of the day, whatever you and I are able to do today, we need to get someone to be able to continue doing it. We need to be able to make sure that what we set in place to be done today is able to remain for the future generations to come. And that's the whole idea of sustainability. It's not just about, doing everything green, but it's about ensuring that it remains there. So even if you do the right things, you may not do it the right way.
Right.
And if you don't do it the right way, it's not able to remain inexistent. And after a while, it disappears.
Right.
Now, from the perspective of innovations, it can be looked at from three different dimensions, right? Where we have the economic side of things, the social side of things, and then governance at the end of the day. More frequent, you would realize that a lot of companies or businesses look at innovation in sustainability from two dimensions only, leaving one part. From the dimensions of the economic side of things, being the environment,
right,
and then from the dimensions of social impact, wherein you look at the people. But then the last part of it that people fail to look at is the governance, which basically talks about the system and the structure put in place. Now, the most common idea of sustainability from innovation is corporate social responsibilities, wherein organizations tend to foster the environment and support the people through social impact and givens. But then the whole idea about it is now it's looked at from a charity perspective, from a charitable perspective. From our perspective, when it comes to sustainability through innovation, it's not only about looking at the initiative of helping the immediate environment or the people, but then in ensuring that today, if you do it, who does it tomorrow? Or how does this help sustain itself till tomorrow? So I'll give you a typical example. A typical example of what a lot of businesses will look at as CSR, being corporate social responsibility, is perhaps doing a road, establishing a water line, or helping the needy and all of that. But from the governance side of things, is looking at what of setting up a revolving fund, right? Because at the end of the day, charity gets exhausting. It gets exhausted. But when you set up a system that is able to provide in turn, meaning it's a self-sustaining system,
right,
it makes it a long life sustaining initiative. And that's the whole idea of innovation in sustainability from our perspective. Ensuring that you cater to the three dimensions, being the environment and the economic side of things, the social side of things, and then the governance, not leaving it aside. Because whether you do the environment and the social, if you don't set up a system that is able to cater to that need continuously, then it becomes deterrent to the entire initiative, because it ends up getting to an end. And what you want to do when it comes to sustainability at the end of the day, if you remember my definition in the first place, is that it's the continuation of human life on Earth. And how do you ensure that that is sustained? Is by putting up a system that would ensure that it maintains itself. Basically.
Amazing. Can you define what innovation is on its own?
So, like I said, it's very simple.
Because when you talk about innovation, I'm thinking about already like a lot of young people, are they innovative, or so you have to like talk about that.
Now you see, if there's a lot of context to which you can look at the definition of innovation. In different contexts, in IT, in business, in accounting, in finance, and all of that, there are different dimensions to how you can define innovation, because everybody has their own definition. But from a general perspective, like I said, it's an improvement upon an already established either initiative, either a service or a product, or even as simple as a process. It's basically what innovation is all about. Ensuring that you are able to do something better in perhaps a little amount of time, a shorter amount of time, a lesser cost to it, and all of that. That's basically what innovation is all about. Improved efficiency with effectiveness. That's from my own perspective, and from our perspective, how we look at innovation. It's basically what it is. However you choose to apply this concept, basically will cut across every single industry that you would look at it. So it's basically on improving the process of whatever it is that you want to do from what has already been established. And that's what innovation is all about.
Amazing. To improve the process, that means you have to have innovative people.
Of course. And that's where the innovators come in play, right? So they say there's a difference between an innovator and a creator. A creator is somebody who establishes something new.
Right.
An innovator is somebody who improves on what the creator has already done to ensure that it gives better value, better productivity, with lesser resources, basically. Now that's innovation, improving the efficiency of whatever it is that you are going to do. Like I said, be it a product, be it a service, or be it a process at the end of the day, however you look at it. That's what we look at innovation as. When you go from the IT perspective, which is the most prevalent area where innovation usually is being looked at, is wherein you have the likes of, back in the days when we didn't have internet, and let me take an example of a video store. You have to go. I don't know if you've experienced that, where you have to go and rent a video, either a DVD, and you rent it from a rental store. You go watch, and then after you're done, you bring it back and all of that. Now we're coming to a stage where, or an age where rather you just go online. You're able to watch it either through a cinema or what have you. Right? So now that's innovation. Improving the process of having access to something without having to go through the stress that you had to go to before. That's basically innovation. But that's now in that context. In every single industry, in every single context, it can be defined differently. But the whole idea is, as long as there is an established way of doing something and you're able to come up with a better way of doing it, so optimizing that particular process is basically what innovation is all about.
So when you say to sustain my own business, for instance, and I have to look for highly innovative people, which means if a person is not innovative, I have to sack the person.
Not really. Now, at the end of the day, we live in a very dynamic ecosystem. And in every business, it is expected that you have a group of diversified individuals, right? So one's strength may not be another one's strength. So your strength may be innovation, my strength could be creation. So, but then before you can innovate, something has to be created. So which means you need to leverage on the ability of someone to create something before you now bring in your own expertise and your core competence to say you are now trying to see you can improve it. Maybe your own ability is not to think of something out of the ordinary, to create it. But when you see something, you're able to think of a better way to achieve it, right? So there is the need for a balance. Yes, it is very eminent for you to have innovative set of people, but then it doesn't make it the only requirement, because you need other competencies at the end of the day. For every organization to be successful, it needs to have a diversified human resource. That's the bottom line. It cannot be one-sided, because at the end of the day, you would end up not being able to surpass a particular stage because you're not able to see the full picture of where you should head to.
A lot of people say, for you to get, individuals who are very innovative, you have to have people they call creatives.
Exactly.
Right? Now, working with creatives is very difficult. I don't know if you've worked with creatives before. Have you worked with creatives before?
Yes, as a matter of fact,
So, working with people like them, is so difficult because you're coming from a different perspective and you're looking at it from this perspective. I'm saying this is blue, it has to be blue, but they are saying, it should be a bit of red up there, blue up there. And you're like, no, this is what looks nice. How will you advise that we work with creatives?
Now, everybody comes with their own specifications, right? Everybody comes with their own various backgrounds. This is where management and leadership comes in play, wherein you are able to identify the traits of individuals and knowing when best to utilize them. This is the whole idea of having a diversified human resource, wherein you understand the deficiencies of one person and the competencies of the other. Knowing how to use it plays a significant role on how you manage the various capacities that you have along the line. Now, you've made mention of creatives. The most common downside of working with creatives is that they do not respect process because they have to think out of the box. For you to create something, you have to go out of the ordinary, right? So you have to allow them have their own space, knowing fully well that there are some certain activities that you know cannot work out of a particular set of process. So you need someone else to do that, not a creative. A creative is just there to be your idealist. Bring up the idea, make it work, make it happen, and then you now have a set of people that would actually make it work at the end of the day. So creating a balance and understanding that people come with different competencies is very, very crucial for any business, either growing or already grown.
Right.
Either to sustain a business or to even grow it. Understanding that. So the competence in terms of management and leadership comes in very, very key, because you now need to be able to establish who has what and when do you need what from any of them. That is the background of any business and for any success at the end of the day.
You spoke about how important management and leadership is to any growing business. Let's say, for instance, now you already started your business. Alhamdulillah, it's going pretty well.
Yes.
But just as you've said, it's very important, and so many young people who are running their business today are losing out when it comes to issues on leadership and management. What would you advise them to do at a moment when they are already running their business? Because sometimes it becomes as if they want to go crazy.
Oh yes, I can imagine. You see, the idea of management and leadership, really, there's no shortcut to it. Unfortunately, we live in a very, very fast-paced world. Our generations are a set of people who sought for immediate gratification and results. But unfortunately, management and leadership doesn't come as such. It requires patience. It requires experience, a lot of it. Now, it takes time for that to be built. It takes a lot of resources for that to be, built into oneself. When it comes to management and leadership, basically there is no school, there is no educationist that would be able to teach you that. It's life itself that would basically teach you that. And how you are able to be receptive and open-minded to how things work and how diverse people are is what makes you grow faster in those areas of competence. So for anyone who is starting up a business new, is for them to be open-minded and for them to be receptive and for them to equally understand that they're going to fall. But it doesn't mean it's a failure, because you won't be able to stand up if you don't fall. So at the end of the day, it's for you to embrace that failure and to embrace that fall and come up even stronger, knowing fully well that you have to learn from that particular process. And that is the key to earning that understanding of management and leadership from my perspective.
Amazing. We're just going to take a short break. I'm back, inshallah. All right, viewers, stay tuned and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Alhamdulillah, we've been talking about how to power sustainability through innovation. And we've been discussing with Abdulkadir. Habibi, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Before we went on a break, we talked about how it's very important for a business individual to understand leadership and management skill deeply. Now, speaking from a psychological point of view, I've got to realize a lot of people are of different temperament. Some are very soft, very, very sensitive to little things. And you find out that the soft people, whenever they run a business, even if someone does anything, they'll be like, just let it go, we don't need to talk about it and likes of it. How do you think people who are sensitive can manage a business? Do they need a manager?
That's a very interesting question, and I appreciate that. But you see, you made mention of a very key important thing, wherein you said people have different temperaments. Now, In every business endeavor, no man, or no woman rather, is an island. You are expected to work with people. The first key to ensuring that you are the best kind of manager and you are a leader. Now there's two different things. Management is different from leadership. Leadership is different from management. Now, as a business owner, where you find yourself with a temperament that may be taken advantage of, be it you're being soft or not being taken too strictly or not stringent in a lot of things that you do, which means a lot of people will take advantage, which is by nature how humans are, is that the first step for you to take care of that as a leader is identifying you have that problem, in which case you need someone, not necessarily a manager. You can still be the manager even with that kind of temperament, but understanding that you need someone with a drive. You need someone with the energy. So at the end of the day, no one is an island. You are expected to work with people. Where you find deficiencies is what brings about the need for you to have a partner or a colleague at the end of the day. Now, a lot of us, for us in Bilad, what we've tried to achieve is a balance across all of this. If you remember what I said earlier on was that having a diversified human resource, wherein you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses. Now, even being soft is a strength, because it means you know how to talk to people, you know how to persuade people, you get people to understand your perspective and all of that, right? So that in itself is a strength, for which someone who is very strict and harsh may not be able to achieve. But then it's in its own dimension, it has its own strength, because you are now able to push people to do things beyond what they think they can do, and you're able to bring out the best in them at the end of the day. So understanding that, yes, you are not an island, you don't have everything, but you need help from others. Again, it comes back to reception and open-mindedness. No one knows it all. So whatever kind of temperament you have, management and leadership basically are skills that can be learned, are skills that can be brewed in one. It doesn't necessarily mean nobody is born a leader, nobody is born a manager. We learn as we go by the experiences that we get. Understanding how life works will make it even easier for you to establish. So yes, to answer your question, not necessarily you need a manager, but it may be easier if you have a manager who now has a more diversified level of experience, right? So you now remain the leader, knowing fully well that you are able to utilize their own experience or their own competence in the best way possible. It equally makes you a manager in your own rights. So manager is not just by the nomenclature being a manager, is in you having a complete control of the affairs within your own space. That's what management is all about. Right. Having a complete control of the affairs within the space that you operate. It could be you walking out of the door, knowing fully well that you have control between standing up and walking out makes you the manager of that particular process. But what is very prevalent in our own environment in Bilad is that we regard every single person as a CEO of his own desk. So whatever office you have, from the CEO himself of the entire organization down to the lowest level of officers we have in the organization, they are regarded as the CEO of their own space. So if you are given a task to handle, you are the CEO of that task, because you are supposed to be responsible for that task. You are supposed to make sure it is being done. You are supposed to make sure it's done to the best of your ability. Now, in that particular instance, you're the manager of that activity, basically, as much as there is an overseeing manager of their own activity, right? But their own activity is to oversee an oversight function of what you do at the end of the day. So not having to duplicate responsibility is very, very key. And that's why you need to understand the deficiencies that you have as a person and the strengths that you have as a person, and knowing how to counterbalance that particular deficiency and strength to create whatever it is that you want to create.
So my last question is this, Brother Abdulkadir.
Now,
what should we look out for when we want to employ in an organization so as to have innovative individuals?
Now, it's a very interesting thing to look at because there are a lot of dynamics to the whole thing. You know, like you said, people are different, they think differently, their approaches differ and all of that. And it's quite difficult to just see someone and understand what they can do. just by a mere interview. It makes it almost impossible because really you don't know the future. So, and that there's a lot of people that are very good at building first impression, but then immediately after that, it fades away and you're not able to get what you're looking for. But for us at Bilad, the best thing to go by from our perspective is passion. Because at the end of the day, passion in itself is the major driver of innovation. Innovation does not exist where passion is absent. Because the whole idea of innovation, at the end of the day, the concept of innovation is having to think over and over about a thing to create a better alternative to that thing. And the best way to have that is passion. Because it's only passion that keeps something in your mind over and over and over again. So for us in Bilad is that we look for passion. And by the time you're able to find someone who's passionate about that particular thing that you're looking for, then innovation comes as a bonus. And for any business that is looking to excel and to grow and to remain sustained, is to ensure that the majority of the workforce within that particular business are driven by passion, not by money, not by clout, not by respect, but by passion, knowing fully well that all of those things could fade away, but then their passion will never go away. And if you are able to build that around your ecosystem, it makes it almost impossible for you not to achieve anything. And there is this, I can't remember what the principle is called. It's called the 80-20 rule, that they say in every organization or in every group of people, only 20% of the people within that group are the active ones. Now, as a business owner, try and make sure you maximize that 20%. 20% is your best case scenario, by the way. 20% is the best case scenario. So in an organization of 100 people, only 20 are the most active. The remaining 80 are not as though they're not important, but they are not the drivers. They are just players. But the drivers are usually the 20%. Some organizations record as low as 2, 3, 5%, and they excel. But the most successful organizations are the one who records the highest, which has never gone beyond a 20% by that principle. So at the end of the day, as a business owner, is trying to look at the holistic picture of organization, ensuring that you are able to maintain as much as you can within that 20% passion-driven individuals who will actually go out of their way to ensure that whatever it is they're required to do, they're able to do it to the best of their ability and to the best of their knowledge. Those are people who try to beat their own records because they are passion-driven and they know that the best that they have done is not the best that exists. So they continuously try to look for even better. And that's just the secret for us at the end of the day.
This is really amazing and quite deep. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you very much, and it's my honor. Thank you so much.
Yeah, viewers, alhamdulillah, you've known what you need to know. I hope you've learnt a lot from this episode. May we be able to implement whatever we have learnt. Until the next episode, I'll leave you all in the care of Allah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.